Hey folks, Ian Baker, the product specialist here at American RV in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Today we're going to do another edition of RV Guide for Beginners. Today I want to talk a little bit about bunks. Maybe you're just starting off in the research phase, kind of seeing what's going to work for you and your family, and you have a lot of different options out there. Do I go with bunks? Do I not go with bunks? Do I want a whole separate room? So today I'm just going to kind of go over a couple of the different bunk setups that they have that you'll see most frequently, the ones that are really common. To start off, I want to talk, if you want bunks or not. So that's where we're going to start out at. Most people prefer to have bunks if you have younger children. The main reason is, while you can drop your dinette down into a bed and a lot of sofas can fold out into a bed, it becomes a really big pain to do that day in and day out. Generally, you want to reserve those more in case you have guests that are coming to stay that don't stay with you that often. If you have younger children, or if you plan on using your RV a lot for like hunting or fishing where a lot of people, and you're going to have a lot of friends that are constantly staying in it with you, bunks are a great idea. The first style of bunk is one like this right back here. Now, this one is running along the back wall, this set of bunks. Generally, it'll be on the side wall. This is a slightly different floor plan. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea what a single bunk looks like. So, it's about 3 foot wide here, and it's going to be, again, a single bunk over a single bunk. These are great for children if you have smaller kids. As your kids start to get older, especially if you're a taller family, when they start to hit teenage years, these are going to be really cramped. Same thing if you have, if you're going fishing, unless your buddies get inebriated to the point that they don't care they're in a casket, this is going to be a pretty small bunk for them. So definitely something good for kids, but again, as your family grows, you may want to move into something a little bit bigger. Another thing to pay attention to is the weight limits on here. A lot of times your single bunks, this one is actually more than normal. Usually they're about 150 to 200 pounds. This one here is 250. But that's something that you do want to pay attention to, especially when we start to get into the double bunks. Speaking of, let's go take a quick look at those. So let's take a quick look at the double bunks here. Double bunk is basically exactly that. It is a double wide bunk. In the industry, a lot of times when you have 2 double bunks, they call it a double over double. Now, a lot of floor plans will also have a single over double or a double over single, and so you can kind of get different variations here. One of the things you do want to pay attention to when looking at a double bunk is the angle right here up front. A lot of manufacturers will give you what they call a double wide bunk, and sure, at the head it is really large, but it's a really steep angle and cuts off a lot of the bed itself. While it's not inherently bad, again, if you have just one child or a smaller child, if you plan on putting 2 kids up here, the one side is going to be a lot shorter. And your weight limits are generally higher on your double bunk as well. You'll see here this one is 300 pounds. But as far as longevity, this will give you more life out of it. If you could kind of expect your camper to grow with your family, this is probably a better way to go, because even as a teenager, you're able to sleep comfortably in here. Adults can sleep in a double wide bunk as well. Now that we've covered some of the different bed styles themselves, let's take a quick look at some other options that are out there. One of the cool things they have is a power bed lift system. This is a Happy Jack system you can see in here. And the big advantage of this is it gives you a lot of versatility, especially if you have some older kids, they're in their teenage years, they're probably not going to go camping with you for that much longer. This means you can still keep the camper afterwards, because what you can do, you can lift both of these beds all the way up to the ceiling, and you get everything underneath here as storage, so it is still very usable. And that pretty much covers up your basic bunk orientation. Usually have them along the back wall or back in a corner like this. And again, this is when you tend to get in your double bunks, is when it is back in the corner. Your other side is oftentimes a bathroom. The other option is to go in to what they actually call a bunk house, where you have an entire separate room. Let's go take a quick look at one of those. Bunk house is a term that's used specifically referring to a room where you have multiple bunks. Generally, this is in the rear of the camper, as it makes the most sense for a floor plan. When you're in the bunkhouse, you can have several different setups. Some of them will have no slides, some of them will have 1, and then others will have 2 slides, which makes this a huge space. The one we're currently in right now has a single slide with 4 bunks, also what they call a quad bunkhouse. Generally, if you have a bed in a slide, it is going to be a lot narrower than if it's not. They only have so much space to work with here. Also, usually underneath the top bunk, at least on one side, you will have some sort of seating arrangement. It may be a couch, it may be a table, but oftentimes that will also form into a bed. The other side tends to have a lot wider bunks. The exception to this is if they have a large outside kitchen, because this bottom bunk, in this particular example, you can see how nice and wide this bunk is. That's because it's a short outside kitchen. If it was a taller one, this bunk would be about half the width. All right, folks, that pretty much wraps it up. I know this was a fairly basic tutorial, but again, it's aimed toward the people that are just starting into the RV world. So if you're starting to search for RVs, not exactly sure where to start, this is probably the first decision you have to make, is if you do or do not want bunks, as that will quickly narrow down the RVs you're looking at. Thanks again for watching. I'm Ian Baker, and I can't wait to see ya on the road to freedom.